good evening to you. Welcome to another Hot Button Issue broadcast right here on Choice Television with me, Timothy Polio. We conclude at 15 minutes after 10 o'clock, and of course we'll be taking your calls, and we'll be concluding with the clip that peaked. Very interesting experience I had on Tuesday. Normally, as a reporter, you come across the expected stories you consider to be obvious. Politicians haggling over the price of petrol at the pump, or politicians accusing each other of being corrupt. You have situations relating to problems in the healthcare sector, education, increase in criminal activity from time to time. But for one particular issue to land at your feet, where an individual came to the studios of Radio Caribbean International on Tuesday and said that just moments before he contemplated committing suicide. He had a change of heart primarily because the place that he ventured to commit the act was basically teeming with people, and therefore he decided to abort that particular incident. And he said that what really caused him to contemplate committing suicide was the fact that he felt hopeless because he was not working over an extended period and he had nowhere to turn. Well, the staff at Radio Caribbean International quickly came together and we provided whatever support we could have provided to him. And not trained, but we tried to counsel him. We are happy to say that he's a lot better as of today. He was trying to get into contact with a prospective employer. There's just one such case. I'm sure there are other cases around St. Lucia that are just waiting for you as a family member, as a friend, and members of the public and private sectors to really try to tackle. We really cannot do it on our own, but if as a wider St. Lucian society we put our heads together, I'm sure if we coalesce around this issue, we can help our brother and sister who is in need. We have a report on this sad incident from Miguel Fevrier. That report was aired last evening during the Choice News Now broadcast.
In tears and reaching the point of desperation and hopelessness, the man notes that he felt that death was the only way out. Good sense prevailed, however, when the selected area, one of the island's beaches, was not conducive to performing the planned act.
I wanted to take my life. I have this rope in my hands, and I just wanted to go there to just end my life. But by the beach I had too many people, so I couldn't do it.
A man of little words, the would-be suicide victim says attempts at procuring employment have been met with rejection and empty promises.
It's been over a year and a half now since I've been searching for a job and I'm not getting through with anything. I've been going out, looking for jobs, but it's like people turning me down, telling me there's no vacancy, or they'll call me tomorrow or next week. And when I check with them the next week or the following, they tell me come back, but I never get through with nothing.
The 32-year-old says he would like more than anything to secure a job, previously exploring the field of landscaping before becoming unemployed. He notes the existence of brothers as the only family he has, but quickly adds that they have done nothing to assist him, relying on the Salvation Army for food and clothing.
I'm feeling like I'm a nobody. I'm not important. I'm useless in this life. So that's why I wanted out of it.
The man, by the end of the interview, expressed optimism that employment will come his way soon. Several Good Samaritans have already offered help. St. Lucia recorded at least a dozen suicides in 2014. Miguel Fevrier, Choice News Now.
Thank you very much, Miguel, for this report which was filed during last evening's Choice News Now broadcast, and we hope that this will serve as an inspiration to you out there who might be despondent, certainly feeling hopeless and therefore not knowing where to turn or what to do. You can always turn to somebody. I'm sure that there's always a good Samaritan who will be able to provide you with some form of assistance. Maybe not in cash, but certainly providing you with words of comfort. My guests this evening, Mr. Stephen Lambert and Mr. Timothy Moses. They are both from the St. Lucia Crisis Center. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Let's start with you, Mr. Lambert.
Yes,
Is there anything shocking about this story that you just heard there from Miguel Fevrier?
Well, the thing is this, it's not really shocking in the sense that we have come to realize there are a lot of people that are just giving up. And so, I mean, though it is shocking, yes, but in another way, no, because you see, we have come to expect a number of those things to happen because people are losing hope. Now, one of the things that we saw in that clip there, and in fact the gentleman talked about it, was that his family have more or less given up on him. They're not helping out. One of the key areas to be able to continue on your way, to keep into the fight, into the struggle, to keep surviving, is that if families are always coming together, it gives you strength. But when you see your family pulls away from you, you end up falling apart much faster, you know.
Existing in an environment where, for example, it's the norm to be selfish?
Well, yeah, I mean, in St. Lucia, I mean, we have a lot of cases of that. We have a lot of people anyway who give a lot. But, you know, there are a lot of cases where, you know, people just think of themselves. I mean, when I have made on a number of occasions, I've made the call to people out there to become volunteers. Help out, be a big brother, be a big sister, help out in the crisis center or in some other groups. A lot of people don't take that seriously at all.
That's a form of selfishness, I imagine,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they're
of
displaying.
course, of course.
Because what, they're preoccupied with looking at their own interests.
Their own interests. I mean, they, rather than give us an hour or two per week, they rather use that, you know, for their own interests to get their salaries and things like that. But we have to take time to help in this country, because if we don't do that, it's going to fall apart.
Mr. Timothy Moses, Men's Support Group of the Crisis Center. What say you, sir, to the piece that we just aired?
It's very sad, Tim. You could hear that drawn voice from this gentleman. As he said, probably if there was no one on the beach, if the beach was lonely that day, we would have another suicide on our account.
What are men doing for men? I think you alluded to that just moments ago, Mr. Lambert. What do you think men can do to look after the interest of men? Because I think that is in abeyance now. But over several years, you've been having women activists looking after the interests of other women. What about the men? Why aren't we hearing from them?
Okay, the thing is this, as you would know, the Crisis Center was formed under a certain level of difficulties that they were having on the island. You know, we came from a situation where we had a lot of heinous acts being done against women, and children were being affected. And so the Crisis Center came out of that sort of difficult period in St. Lucia. So a lot of the legislation and all of that was passed was actually passed to protect the women from the men.
Isn't it time to change this? Because obviously the scenario, we have a different scenario in our hands right now.
Yeah, you see what happened. I mean, it was done so well. I mean, it was done, I mean, you know, and when you look at it now, you realize that it's like the men are now disadvantaged, you know. So we're trying now, we're working to see if we can get some of those laws amended, and, you know, so that the men can have a more of an even.
But Mr. Moses, why is it so less likely for men to come together, to form a group, to form organizations, to look after the interests of other men?
I think the problem is within man's ego. I think man feel that he's the superior being. Man feel that he's a macho, you know, and man feel that he's a man as he's supposed to be, and probably more. And man, some men does not even want to share, you know, what's going on within them with others, because of the fact that they might be ridiculed, because of the fact that they might be taken for granted, you know, men or women might laugh at them, you know, which could bring you to a very low state.
Because, Mr. Lambert, it's easy to advise men who have their own problems to come forward and to speak to a family member, to speak to another male friend. But as Mr. Moses was saying, and it is a fact that people do not hold things in strict confidence. I mean, every other individual believes that he or she is a reporter. And they like to report whatever news that they have. They don't know how to keep it.
Right.
Do you think that is the problem?
Well, that can be one of the problems too. I mean, confidentiality, you know. But the thing is that generally men like to keep things inside. And this is where we, you know, a lot of them fall short, because you keep something inside, you bottle it up, and then afterward it explodes. And so this is, you know, this is how a lot of the suicides happen, you know. People keep things inside, they don't talk about it, they don't speak to anybody, they don't make it, you know, an issue that somebody can give them some advice on. And then it just becomes too much for them and they just decide to end it all.
So, Mr. Moses, is that a risk worth taking, confiding in another friend, knowing that whatever information will soon be put out there in the open?
But at the end of it all, Tim, it's better confiding in a friend and having yourself being
You call
ridiculed.
it confide, it's better maybe to speak to a friend.
Yeah, it's better to speak
there
to
are no
a friend.
guarantees.
Yeah.
It's better to speak to a friend and, you know, air it out and probably feel better afterwards than to keep it inside, and it's going to kill you. I mean, it could bring so much damage. It could stress you out. And, you know, stress kills. Stress have killed many young people.
I think kudos to the gentleman, because he's 32 years old, and he walked into the studios of Radio Caribbean International and he opened up to the staff of the radio station, even crying out. You could see him crying openly for help. So do you think that, what good, if anything, you think will come out of that?
Well, I mean, what the good I'm seeing out of that is that that is a case that is maybe even, I mean, we literally have a face to a situation, to a suicide that was, well, it was averted. And of course, we see now partners out there coming out and deciding, okay, well, let's try to help. Now, what we need now, we need this sort of thing being done on a wider scale, you know? Once, you see, if more people are involved in any problem, it becomes lighter, you know. But when you just leave it to just one group or two groups to handle, it becomes insurmountable.
What about the workload of the St. Lucia Crisis Center? What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, the work of the Crisis Center goes on, and, you know, I mean, we have a lot of, well, we have dedicated counselors, you know, people who already go the extra mile, even when, you know, I mean, they're supposed to be on their lunch breaks or whatever. They handle all of those cases, you know. Of course, you know, when people go through all of these sorts of things themselves, they have to be debriefed, you know, because it's a situation where they carry a lot of load. But what we've found over the years is that the Crisis Center has averted a lot of suicides. You know, they've prevented it from happening. And I can confidently say that the Crisis Center has done an excellent job in trying to keep the balance in this country, because a lot of people would have given up. The Crisis Center provides meals for a number of students who are unable to. We have an afternoon program. We also give them classes for you know, different subjects. So, you know, it's a continual work going on, and we are averting a lot of situations which, I mean, you see, the whole thing is this. We cannot blame the government for everything, or any government in particular, in the sense that the situation is a grave situation. There are limited resources. They are trying their best. We are also trying to make sure that, you know, that we get a number of things to work in the country. And this is, you know, the situation we find ourselves in. But it's an ongoing process.
But obviously there's need for a national effort to look at this scourge.
There is need for a national effort, Tim. And I think we should go bigger than this. We'll have more lives on our hands, you know. the government need to get involved. You have some departments here who are, I wouldn't say exactly against men, but they preferred the female gender. And we could pinpoint, family court.
Do you think that's a perception more than it is a reality? Are men just hauled before the family court for doing good things, for obeying the law, for taking care of their family, for taking care of their kids?
A lot of men, Tim, don't feed their children. We have a lot of delinquent men. We have a lot of men who just don't care. Or they seem to take advantage on the children because their spouse, the relationship is no more, feasible. There's no more life in the relationship between the two of them, and they seem to take advantage of the kids for that reason.
So if there's an intervention on the part of the family court, do you think it's the correct thing to do?
Yes, it is the correct thing to do, but I figure sometimes the family court goes way beyond measure.
Such as, give me an example. What occasion?
I would say in my example,
You had a personal experience?
I had a personal experience.
Okay, share it with us.
I was evicted from my house just because of lies that were said to the family court. Okay? And I'm sure quite a number of men have faced this problem. Without getting without getting a report from a second party or from the second party, the counselors would just write out a letter and send to the magistrate, and the magistrate to do whatever she does and have you evicted. Police would come and have you evicted. A lot of men are on the street because of the family court. We have a lot of problems going on right now because of the way our judicial system is being run. You understand? And there's some kind of shaping up that needs to be done. I have heard from magistrates themselves, that is men themselves who have orchestrated the laws against men, in favor of women. And they know to themselves that a lot of these laws need to be revamped. They need to be reconsidered. Who is going to do it? When it's going to be done? We don't know when. More men are taking their lives. The island is having more blood on its hand. We need to seek God. We need to call in an intervention for the Lord to at least do something for St. Lucia on behalf of the amount of men who are going astray. I'm sure you know for yourself, Tim, you come from the Fulasho area, and you know to yourself the amount of unemployed young men there are in this little area alone. We have some bigger areas like Micoud, Moshi, Vieux Fort. There is no employment. Things need to be done. There are a lot of men who are not creative. I started creating employment for myself probably at the age of 12.
I went what?
Helping my father, who was a carpenter, fixing my mom's house, and this also taught me to be a builder right now. I started sailing when I was 15 years. And this has broadened my scope immensely. We need our youngsters to be creative. We need our youngsters to learn a trade. Our youngsters need to seek the Lord, who is the most important person in our life right now. We need to call on the Most High. If we don't have that figure in our life, we are a thing of naught. It's very important, Tim. Right now, we have reached the crisis stage where Men cannot take it no more. And it's not only men. We heard of a 15-year-old girl from Piat who took her life. Who knows for what? Probably some family disturbance. Who knows? We have women taking their lives. You know, if you don't string up yourself in a rope, they go drinking Tia Maria. Just to end their lives, thinking it's going to bring some solution. No, it's not going to bring any solution. It's making it worse. You're leaving families, children, you know, friends. Sad. It's bad, Tim. It's bad.
We'll be back in just a moment. You're watching Hot Button Issue. Please stay with the broadcast. Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Hot Button Issue right here on Choice Television with me, Timothy Polia. My guests, Mr. Timothy Moses and Mr. Stephen Lambert. They're both from the St. Lucia Crisis Center. Stay with us because in just a moment we'll be taking your calls. Several years ago, attempts were being made to establish a men's resource center on the island. I remember spearheading that initiative was Mr. Martin Weeks, among other individuals. And the European Union was supposed to provide the funding for that project, which never came through for whatever reason. Do you think there's need for a men's resource center on the island so that men can converge and dialogue and speak about the issues, try to find solution to the various social and economic problems confronting them right now?
Oh yeah, of course. You see, I think that men have the answers to a lot of the problems that we're encountering right now. But you see, the people that have the answers, most of them are staying away from the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not working together with others to be able to bring the answer. And so a resource center would be a very good thing. Very good.
What about women-related issues? Do women have their own concerns too?
Yes,
They only
women.
focus on the men.
Women do have their own concerns. I figure women have more concerns than men.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at women, women are the housewives. You also have women who go out to work and still come home and be a housewife. So they have double on their plate. You know, men should be the ones coming in and helping in with the woman. If the woman is cooking or if she is washing, the man should go ahead and cook. You know, we should be very helpful in the house. That's what a relationship is all about. You know, the guy is the builder, the woman is the cook. You have a good relationship. You know, you should not have any problem there.
What we'll do right now is to put the telephone number on screen so that you can call with your questions and comments right now for my guests. Once again, Timothy Moses and Stephen Lambert. They are from the St. Lucia Crisis Center. There are a number of other issues impacting women. For example, over the last few weeks, we've been hearing of women, being sexually assaulted. I mean, they were raped and so on. How much of a concern is this to the St. Lucia Crisis Centers?
Well, you see, the thing, Tim, when
my apologies, hold on that point. We have a caller line. Okay, we lost that call. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, when a woman has been violated in such a way, you know, the rapes that are going on, it really is, you know, I mean, the act itself is it's a horrific act.
Hold that point, sir. Good evening. You're watching Hot Button Issue on Choice Television. Good evening to you, sir.
Hello, Mr. Lambert and the other gentleman.
Yes, sir.
Good
How are
evening
you?
to you.
Good evening.
Can I say something about what I heard you all say earlier about suicide?
Yes,
go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
I don't think economic conditions is a sufficient excuse for somebody to take their life. I don't think hard
Okay,
times is
caller,
either.
you're speaking from your point of view. That is from your point of view. And I'm sure that we all have our limit. We all must just pray that we never reach the point where we want to commit suicide. But I think you're speaking from your point of view. Economic concerns might never cause you, sir, to commit suicide. Is that what you're saying?
It could never.
But you can't
And I
speak.
don't think it's a proper
No.
excuse.
You should not
breaking
speak
up
for
from a
somebody
woman.
else.
I mean, there are so many women. You can just say the word and you get one. So what's the point of saying because of a family breakup you feel you should go and kill yourself? You know,
No, but we're talking...
you don't say that. And listen, there are some criminals, they are robbers, and some of them are murderers, and they use the economic excuse and all other family things for them to continue their crime.
I don't even want to continue our conversation with you, sir, but I appreciate your point of view, but I do not respect what you're saying there because it really does not make sense. It's nonsensical.
Can I respond to his...
Go ahead, please.
To his query? My brother, do you know what it feels like when your children are crying at home with nothing to eat before they go to bed? Do you know what it's like for the bank to send in letters upon letters to you and you cannot pay your loan and the bank probably is looking to come and seize your house? Do you know what it's like? You don't know what it's like, my brother. You have to feel it for you to know it.
Have a call. Good evening. Hot Button Issue, you on the air?
Hi, just to the previous caller you just had. I mean, in St. Lucia, I've always thought that we just need to be more sensitive. People get sick, they go to a doctor. People have emotional problems. They think that counseling is just for mad people. We need to change that perception. Honestly, Timothy. These things, people have their limits, like you just said. Your limit may be very different from mine. But I don't know what we need to do. We need to change this because people need to understand that there are people out there who have nobody. They've got nobody to talk to. So, honestly, just hearing the previous caller. But anyway.
Thank you so much for calling, ma'am. You have another caller line. Good evening. This is Hot Button Issue.
Yeah, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Yes, good evening, Timothy.
Hi, good evening to you, ma'am.
Yeah, Timothy, I just wanted us to be careful about glamorizing suicide because we have to be careful how we bring the messages across to the public because some people might believe that suicide is a good thing and they might be excited about suicide because they get media coverage, they get a job because they say they want to commit suicide. So we have to be very careful, and I am happy about the boy who went to the station. At least for the time being, the suicide has been arrested or is prevented from happening. But I want to know what other form of long-term help has been sought for him.
Well, I called the Department of Human Services, trying to solicit some form of counseling assistance for this gentleman. I am hoping that they managed to call him, to contact him, because I gave them his number, and I'm hoping that he would contact the individuals there as well. But I think, to me, the moral of that story is that you can always turn to somebody for help. It does not have to be a radio station. It does not have to be a pastor or police officer. There are so many individuals that they were willing to assist in one way or the other, as long as you seek that assistance.
Okay, and Tim, another point is that probably the first caller who called, he said about using suicide as an excuse. Maybe what he said, it was quite a little too harsh, the way it came across. But people who want to commit suicide because of an economic problems, an economic problem is just a predisposing factor. There are many, there are hundreds. And somebody who does not have a base, most people who don't have an underlying mental health issue would not just want to commit suicide because they don't have a job. There must be something underlying most times in 95% of people. So then we have to look for somebody who, because they don't have a job, they want to commit suicide, we have to look for underlying issues. So in a way, what the caller said was right, but he just brought it across a little too harsh.
But in reality, don't you think there must be a problem, a particular problem? Let's forget the underlying problem, but there must be a problem to cause somebody to want to commit suicide. Is that the case? There must be something, some reason, and those vary.
Yes, but they call it a predisposing factor, a contributing factor. It can be you lost your job, it can be you lost your partner, it could be you lost your parent, it can be something that happened to you, you had a bad moment on your job. But then a normal individual who is totally stable would not generally, under a situation like that, just want to go and do the first thing to commit suicide. There must be something else on the line. That's why that person needs a psychiatric assessment.
But don't you think that that person would have reached their zenith of tolerance?
Well, maybe in their perception, because there are, most times for suicide, there are factors that are contributing, and there are factors that are protective for people. So if they don't have many protective factors to overbalance the contributing factors, then they might want to commit suicide. That is why psychotherapy sometimes is important, so that you could point out to them what there is for them to look forward to, how they can be helped.
Okay, ma'am, appreciate the contribution.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We continue to take your calls. Once again, this is Hot Button Issue right here on Choice Television. Good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening to you.
Hi, good evening to you, ma'am.
Yeah, there's a little boy in Vieux-Fort who is being abused. I think the authority needs to go down to Vieux-Fort. It's somewhere in the Mang area. And if that child don't get any help.
But have you called the authorities?
I think some of the neighbors have done that. So you know already, unless the danger happens, you know, our people don't take charge.
What has the response been, as far as you're aware?
I am not sure, but I know some of the neighbors have spoken to police, to the social welfare people. But I don't think much has been done. But that child, yeah.
How old is the child?
I think he's about 12.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for calling. But those departments, human services and so on, the resources, they do not have it, manpower and otherwise.
Yeah, they themselves are stretched too, you know. So it's one of those things we just have to work with.
We have a call? Okay. We continue to take your calls once again. This is Hot Button Issue on Choice Television. It's already 12 minutes before 10 o'clock, and we conclude at 15 minutes after the hour. Good evening.
Good evening, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, the other team.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
And Mr. Stephen Lambert.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir. But Tim, I don't see any reason for someone wanting to take their life in this world. I don't see any reason.
And you're speaking from your point of view, yes, sir, because I know you well. Okay?
Pardon me?
You're speaking from your point of view, and I know you very well. So just looking at you, I don't think you have any reason to think about committing suicide. And we know each other, right?
Tim, one of the in life, we could go through so many different issues. You know, I mean, one of the things that could actually cause you to go down a stray, like you could behave in a way where you lose, or maybe an addiction behavior, your addictive behavior. You know, you could have that issue in life where you may feel maybe you cannot stop, like an alcoholic or a drug addict, and maybe you reach that point. Maybe you may need counseling. You may need counseling. You might need someone to talk to you to try to get you out of it. But for somebody telling me, hello?
I'm listening to you, sir.
For someone telling me that they cannot get a job, Tim, and they want to take their life because they cannot get a job in this country today, Tim, there are so many opportunities for young people. There's so many things that we can do. We can be creative. Them young people, is it one of the questions that I asked myself when I heard that? Is it about the money or about the job? Because some people want the big money. They don't want to work.
Well, I think you're unfairly passing judgment on this young man. The fact is that he has a 7-year-old. I think that he was renting a home somewhere in St. Lucia, and he was given notice. He was asked to vacate the home. He had to find somewhere else to live. So I think it's easy for you to say that, because what you're doing is passing judgment on him, and you want to analyze the whole issue from his perspective.
No, I'm not passing justice. I'm not judging the guy, Tim. I'm not doing that as far as I look at it. Tim, I mean, in this country, Tim, there are so many people that you have the head cornerstone. You have, if you reach to rock bottom, where you need help, there's so many opportunities, so many places you can go. You can go to the opposition, you could go to the Prime Minister, You could go to one of the ministers. There's so many opportunities in this country. Because, I mean, when I look at it, when people are saying that we are hungry or people are starving or this, we're living in a poverty country, I mean, there are a lot of poor people in this country. As far as I look at it, there are a lot of rich people, and we have not reached that stage where people are dying of hunger in this country.
Speak for yourself, sir. All right, thank you very much for your contribution. What say you, sir?
Yeah, no, we were talking about earlier on. We were saying about with regards to the rape situation. Now, of course, that act is a horrific act, and I think it's time now for women to more or less take some control of the situation for themselves.
Well, how can they do that?
No. I mean, that's why I'm saying now. You know that this guy, what's his name again, Timmy Francis, the martial artist, he's training people now to be able to protect themselves. Now, I think it's also time that the prohibition on things like mace, women should be able to have that, so that at least they have a certain level of control. I mean, a guy comes to you and he tells you, hi, hello, I mean, that's a different stuff, right? But if you feel that your person is
being invaded,
being invaded, or that you're threatened or whatever, then you can actually be able to use that mace. I mean, we can't allow women to be raped and hurt like that, It's not acceptable.
Good evening. Hot button issue, you on the air?
Yes, good night, Tim.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yes, Mr. Smith from Back on Track. I have to identify myself because Lambert and I, we go a long way. Lambert, how you doing, sir?
Yes, man, I'm doing fine. You okay?
Yeah, and the gentleman who has made some comments in the red tie, I didn't get his name, but I thought
that's
that
Mr. Timothy Moses. Timothy Moses.
Yes, he was on the ball and he did not take out spirituality from the equation. Yes. But Tim, more importantly, you have got many kudos in the past and you have been complimented. But I must say that RCI, I'm sure this is a historic moment for you. I'm very pleased to know that you don't just make it a news item and one for discussion, but at least, you're bringing the message across to the nation. So I really want to let you know that my prayers are with you. That's a very, very good program, and I'm impressed. Having said that, 2 weeks ago, I met a lady by Lucy Leck, who came up to me and she said she watched me on Choice, where the program is as well. And she said to me she wanted to commit suicide and had Grammar Zone. And imagine that I could not even go to the place in Mondido, but I had to pray sincerely. And then I thank God later on she's doing pretty well, but I had to call a friend of mine to go and visit the individual. So sometimes we may not be able to be present and give our monies and do what we think we're supposed to do. But if you could call somebody to go and visit that neighbor, that individual, it goes a very, very long way.
Now, your work, you're conducting very good work over the last several years in terms of trying to rehabilitate ex-inmates.
Yes, sir.
And ensure that we end the high rate of recidivism. Do you come across men sometimes who want to commit suicide after they have left prison, after they've served their term, primarily because of the fact that they are invariably stigmatized?
Yes, even this afternoon on the waterfront, I met a guy who left the boys' training center many years ago, and I think you featured him on Choice. And some of the guys, they have things that are pressed down on the inside, or they have dreams that are not honored. And frankly speaking, they don't know where to turn, and sometimes you hear certain languages, because suicide might be a physical issue for many people, but emotionally, professionally, and even family-wise, a lot of guys going to give up and they just actually withdraw. And so they find themselves in those situations, So yes, I've come across that repeatedly and as much as possible. I remember once there was I would tell that off the air, there was a guy who hung himself somewhere in, on the beach by Monrepo there, and he was an agriculturist at the boys' training center. There's nothing to hide, and he didn't know what to do, where to turn. And after I preached, he came to me, and, and later on the domestic situation was worse than I thought, So I have been around many, many people who have attempted such a stuff. Tim?
I appreciate the contribution,
yes,
sir.
But God bless, but you're doing a great job, Tim.
Thank you very much. We take another call to be followed by a commercial break. Good evening. You're on the air.
Timothy, good night.
Good night to you, ma'am.
Timothy, I don't know. Good night to your guest.
Good night.
I don't know if you all remember when community development was very much alive in St. Lucia. You had the mothers and fathers groups, the youth and sports, the 4-H, the whatever, and the list goes on. Timothy, community development has been, sidelined by government after government because they do not understand the significance, the importance of community development. Timothy, if you were to ask the PS and the minister, I don't want to put anybody in the shade. If you were to ask them what are the principles of community development, they may not be able to tell you. And this is the problem in this country. Community development, Timothy, plays a very vital role in all countries, big or small, particularly the small islands. Because if you were to ask maybe a minister of government or the PS, what is community development all about? The first thing that would come to mind is a building, is a street, is a standpipe, is a whatever. Let me say something to you. If community development was alive in St. Lucia, and it was alive and well, I can bet every cent in my pocket a lot of the social problems you are seeing that surfacing would not. You see the suicide? And right now I'm hearing mental cases on the rise, and the crimes and everything, it would not have happened. Because before we had the mothers and fathers group, we had all these groups, and everybody got a place to fit in. Everybody would come out and socialize. Timothy, let me tell you and say to whosoever is listening, the ministers of government, the PSEs, community development, in short, is people's development. It is not buildings. It is not the road. And when once you put the focus on people's development, then the road will come, the building will come, the whatever will come. Now, Timothy, if you focus on the people, you do not go in a community and impose on anybody. We have officers that are supposed to be community development officers. I want to ask the nation tonight, when last any community had any session, meeting, dialogue, consultation with these community development officers? There is nothing happening. And this is why you have all those social ills raising its head. People are confused. They do not understand the meaning of community development. Timothy, in 2000, the government decided to change the name from community development to social transformation. I asked the minister then, why the change? I said to her, people already have difficulty in understanding the principles of community development. When you go and change the name, you're going to make it more difficult. Because social transformation is the end result of community development. Without community development, you cannot have social transformation. So it's when, and the other thing too is that these officers, if I may say, you have community development officers assigned to all the major communities in St. Lucia. Let me give you some of the roles that community development officers are supposed to play. They are teachers. They are supposed to be, in fact, teachers, trainers, enablers, facilitators, researchers, program planners, coordinators, a conduit between government and the community, and the list goes on. Now,
are you a former community officer?
What's that?
Are you a former community officer?
I am a trained community practitioner.
Okay.
Now listen to me, Timothy. Just figure what I have told you there. If this was alive and well in St. Lucia, that would create the social safety network that we need so badly here. I have worked, and I am saying when community development was alive and well, all 11 p.m. you have intervention taking place. When last you ever see a community development officer? Ask any of the community development officers what are the principles of community development, and they may not tell you. So a lot of times when we have problems, we do not seek to address the root cause. We go after the problem. So it will always repeat itself.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Appreciate your meaningful contribution. Back in a moment to continue our discussion and, of course, take your calls. This is Hot Button Issue on Choice Television. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Hot Button Issue. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Good night, Moses. Good night, Lambert.
Yeah, what's happening?
You know, I have no doubt that economic situation may lead one to take their lives. But I must tell you, Lambert, I've had some experiences. One, many years ago, about a decade ago, I went to the post office and I had some, I have some calendars, work calendars I get annually. And the customs kept it back. And when I asked them, why these are calendars with a Bible verse for the day, then I was told that the number of books on the occult that have been seized in the customs, that's over 10 years ago. Timothy would know about a guy from Fulasho who hanged himself on a chair. He sat down and he hung himself. I was still working in government when somebody from Fulasho said that this guy was involved with the occult, written bad books, right? And we have quite a number of those things. In St. Lucia today, it may be economic, but we have people who are skiting. They live above their means. They pay one credit card to pay the next. Now, when you ask, well, why those things are happening, I cannot tell you. I mean, excepting that I'm a man of God, I read the Bible, and I know that in the last days, evil will pervade the land. But there are many persons, right, who actually will live beyond their means. And then when it catch up with them, because they are lying, they are cheats. We also have the question of indisciplined society, where now persons are publicly saying that you must not obey and think you're superior, and people who should know better are supporting that. Persons are transferred, they're not obeying the superior to be transferred. Persons say could leave your workplace anytime you want. Now all those things are pressures I see on young persons. You have young people now, they do not know what is no. From time they are babies, everything is theirs. Yes, yes, yes. When somebody says to them no, how do they cope with no? They don't know no. They're not used to somebody telling them no. So I do understand, appreciate that they have problems in society. But to make it that it is an economic situation, not working. Because when I grew up, as I tell people close to me, we were poor but we're not hungry. It means that my mother did not have money, but I could eat dry coconuts, I could eat guavas, I could eat going up and go and sleep. Now, to go to sleep, you have to go to the supermarket. You understand me? Our children, we tell the farmers plant and produce, but they're not eating it. We eat breadfruit. We want to eat bananas. We want to eat that. And we have plenty of food. I mean, if you had bananas, I was free for go Michelle in my yard. Right? I'll be in my yard. I could get anybody to come and give them. But the children not eating go Michelle, not eating bananas, not eating breadfruit. So you have to go and get macaroni and cheese for them. All that needs money. So I could understand why people cannot cope. Because we are spoiling them. They are indisciplined. When a lady said about community development, and I wish she'd have told you what are the principles of community development. Because if you look at our playing fields, we're in the height of a cricket season, a world championship is going on. You don't see children playing cricket. Children don't play marbles, they don't play kite, they don't make top, they don't play nothing.
But things have changed there. I mean, Caller, right now you have Facebook, you have the internet, you have social media.
But exactly.
But you're giving the impression that things will...
They're watching porn, they're watching pornography, they're watching the occult, and all of that team, right? Mm-hmm. You see, let me tell you something, Tim. No, about 3 weeks ago, somebody was telling me about things happening where they have fellas who are sleeping with each other's daughters. You have cults in St. Lucia where initiation is gang rape, right? You have a situation in St. Lucia, not men sleeping with their daughters. You have mothers sleeping with their sons in St. Lucia, Tim.
And you know about that, Caller?
If I know about it.
And you know, what are you doing about it?
What do I cannot do nothing about it, Tim. When people are speaking, I listen to them.
But
right?
You should be reporting this.
Them. What's that, Tim?
You should be reporting that to the authorities.
So I'll go to the authorities and say that Tim told me that so and so in that school that there is a gang of lesbians, a cult. The teacher, the mother is in the group with the daughter, etc. Right? No, Tim.
So why are you repeating it on this
I don't
program?
have the evidence. I'm telling you
so
stories.
you see, if you don't have the evidence, you should not be repeating it, Colin.
No,
it's just
I
a
have evidence.
juicy
That's
story,
exactly what is wrong
and you
with
have to get it off your chest.
That
That's
is
all.
what is wrong with us. Father Lambert St. George wrote his book, Turbulent Waters. Huh? Dr. Rambali wrote his book, Beyond Medicine. You know what this book is about? It's about beyond medicine, the occult, demon possession in this country, right? The abortions that are committed in this country, Tim. So I'm not surprised. So we have to go deeper than just, I can't get a job. Read Father Lambert St. George's books to understand the seriousness of what is happening there and find out. There's a colleague of yours, Andrew Seeley, who's a journalist in the media. Over a decade ago, Andrew Seeley wrote about the covens in our schools. You know about that?
I heard about it.
The covens in our schools, right? And then he wrote it and it's left there, right? But it is not a joke. These are serious things happening, that we have covens, we have witches walking around us in this country.
All right, sir.
All right?
Thanks a lot. What say you?
Yeah, well, we know for sure that there's a spiritual side to everything. There's the good and the bad. We know that for sure. People are reading a lot of old books, which they should not. The book I suggest to them to read would be the Bible. And, of course, any other, secular books like, your geometry, French, those kind of learning texts, but not any books dealing with the occult. Now, I just want to tell you quickly, I had a case in 2007 where there was a gentleman who was trying to kill himself. To make a long story short, really, I'm just mentioning quickly that my wife, my daughter, and myself, and I called up another lady who was well known for prayer, and we agreed in prayer for that gentleman. When I went to by his home to find out whether he was there, I didn't find him there. Well, I didn't hear him there, but later on I heard him walking in the house. So I went across to him, I told him, hey, but what's wrong, So I tell him, but everybody have difficulties, whatever, don't worry about these things. And I left him there. But I noticed that there was this rope hanging from the ceiling. But honestly, that was 2007. I didn't know anything about the crisis center. I said to myself, Lord, I don't want to deal with that kind of thing, man. I just can't take that kind of thing on. So anyhow, I spoke to him. After he called my wife and he explained to my wife that, whether Lambert saw the rope hanging from the ceiling. So my wife said, yes, he saw it. And he went on to explain to her that he was about to kill himself. Like he was seeing somebody showing him how to tie the rope. And then a light passed in front of his eyes. And then he stopped. He realized himself, hey, but what am I doing? Why should I be doing that? And when we checked back the actual timing that he gave us, we realized it was the time we had started praying for him. So it would be probably the Lord sent an angel to show him and, prevent him from doing that. So, that the power of God is very important in all of this, suicide and everything. God can answer prayer and God can save our people,
Good evening. Hot button issue, you on the air?
Yeah, man.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah,
good evening. Yeah, I heard the gentleman talking about people shouldn't read certain type of books and them kind of thing. So, I want to know, well, how we come up with that kind of idea, because have you read them to know what's in there for him to make a kind of, suggestion to the people, which I come saying. So you just can't say, don't read them kind of books, don't read books about yourself. You don't even know what's in there yourself. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying it's
That's
worth So you're saying it's worth exploring?
That's right. But you don't even know what's in it. I might have, I don't even know how well want to go.
Well, I'm curious, caller, but I don't want to find out.
But
I don't know about you. All right. Thanks a lot. Final call. Good evening.
Oh, Tim, I don't normally call you, and I got to the final call. Fascinating program.
Yeah, go
ahead. Tim, I really studied what was being said by the callers, by your guests, etc. And I don't get it. It's obvious that people who kill themselves are not of sound mind. Now, whether it's because they saw a rat run across the road, or they saw flashes, or whatever it is, obviously these people are not together. There must be some. The lady was talking about community development and officers visiting people's homes and whatnot. That must be pretty good, but I can't even think even that would get down to all the people who are disturbed and whatnot. But all we are hearing is, I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that.
So what's the solution, Rick?
Eat coconuts. And
So
all that kind of.
So Rick,
we have a lot of very depressed and sick people.
What is the solution, Rick?
I don't have any solution to this. I can only point out that the authorities ought to be caring about all, like today in your program earlier on, somebody thought that to say that 12 suicides in a year was not an epidemic, and he dwelled on the word epidemic. I mean, alarming for you, epidemic for me. 12 people killing themselves in a country where years past nobody kills themselves. I mean, there's something wrong, whatever it is, whether it's depression from the economy. And by the way, Greece, America, England, they have, during the recession, at the height of the recession, were recording numbers of cases of people, older people and young people especially, in the middle not so much, who are killing themselves, and it was directly related to them losing their homes, all their savings are gone, they feel useless, they don't know what next to do. Some people lose their... People get disturbed by that, get shook up, they have no future, and they give up on life. It's kind of madness, but it's madness brought about by something. And experts, and we need people to stop thinking, I wouldn't have done that, I can go eat a coconut, and that kind of thing. We need people to stop that thinking and look upon the thing as a serious problem, as they do in big countries, with statistics to prove those things, Tim.
All right. Thanks a lot. Publisher of the Star newspaper, Rick Queen. Final comments? Let's start with you, Mr. Timothy Moses.
My final comments. I would like to beg, I would like to appeal to the men out there. Instead of inviting yourselves to the pubs, to the parties, to the blockos, please come and talk out your problems. I am begging you, there is no solution. I mean, it could happen to any one of us. Please come and seek some advice. Come and get some counseling. All what is being said to us at the Crisis Center is being said in confidence. Okay? So I'm appealing to you guys out there who cannot take the pressure, who don't feel good when you get a go well. I am begging you guys, come over and get some counseling from us. Get some form of help. It would help. Don't keep it bottled down inside. It's going to kill you. It's going to burst a vein behind your head. And you're aware of that. You know that. Please, I'm begging you.
Mr. Stephen Lambert?
Yeah, well, I just want to tell the men again, or make that same appeal, that, you can come into the Crisis Center. They're available. We have trained counselors. Come in, give tell us your problems. It's strict confidence. It's also open to the women and also children too, We are there to help. We want to see, people get better. We want to see people become productive citizens again. And, we wherever that there's any form of injustice, we normally stand up against it. And, like I said, whatever the problem is, just let us know, and we will do our best to help you, okay?
Mr. Stephen Lambert, thank you so much for being my guest, as well as Mr. Timothy Moses. Thank you so much for watching, my apologies. Thank you so much for watching the broadcast and contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, we discuss a hot button issue right here on Choice Television. Time now for the clip that peaked.
I sat here and tried to put myself in the position of the two representatives of your side of the House, which is Honorable Eldridge Stevens and Mrs. Leon Theodore John. And based on the issues that you've raised, you not only question the integrity, you embarrass them. You question the integrity of the Speaker. And I'm saying that again. I just want to, I think the member for Castries went clearly on it, but I want to repeat it. Because, you know, those persons, we ask them, we appoint them in the public interest to serve. And we must not bring them down to that level. He requires, it's an issue. And you know, we have the children here with us. When you are in this parliament, you need to raise the bar. You need to raise the bar. And I believe there's a lot we could have discussed and debated without bringing down the level of our people. So I'm asking you today to commit yourself to make a change. Make a change. You need to make a change. But I can not only pray for you, you need to pray for yourself. You need to pray for yourself.
Concluding the broadcast on a very cheerful note. My name is Timothy Paulion saying good night. See you next time.